Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our March check-in. Happy spring also. I'm Mina Kim. I'm Program Officer of the Community Initiative. I'm calling in today from the Somerville, Cambridge area of Massachusetts on the unceded lands of the Massachusetts, Wampanoag, and Nipmuc peoples. And as we're talking about food, culture, and community today, we want to acknowledge that it is on Native and Indigenous lands that have provided for us and nourished us. I really am so excited to have you all join us in conversation about food, culture, and community. And I do love this picture from the Garlic and Arts Festival. And I don't know if you can see the sign there, but I think it says the festival that stinks. So we'll hear more about that from Lydia Gray coming up. So before we get in to the program, I just wanted to quickly introduce the communities team. So we have Lisa Simmons, who's the program manager of the Community Initiative, Luis Edgardo Coto, who is Cultural Districts Program Manager, and then the program officers, which include Timothea Pham, Ricardo Guillaume, Veronica Ramirez Martel, and myself. And as you can see, we are assigned in different regions across the state. And the pink municipalities that you see highlighted are ones that have cultural districts. And the Community Initiative is a part of 8 other programs that make up the Mass Cultural Council. So today we wanted to, we wanted to have this conversation because food is so integral in the way we think about ourselves, our families, our communities. And so as we introduce today's guest speakers, we also wanted to ask you all to share how you celebrate community through food. And if you could just share that in the chat, that would be really wonderful. And I actually just realized that I forgot to share my video. So hello again. So how do you celebrate community through food? And while you're thinking about that, I thought I would share a little story of how my family celebrates rituals through food. And because it's springtime, I was recalling how when I was younger, my family around this time actually would go into the woods in northern Connecticut and pick fiddlehead ferns. And we would pick them, and my mother would dry them in our backyard, and then we would, we wouldn't cook, but she would cook them into this dish called kosari namul. And it's when you boil the dried fiddleheads and marinate them in garlic, sugar, and soy sauce. And it's a side dish that we would always have around late March and April, which is when fiddlehead season is. And so I just wanted to share that because it is the beginning of spring, and going into the woods with my family was a way to sort of recognize springtime and to create something that is a part of our culture and what we want to nourish ourselves with. So just wanted to put that in there. And I don't know if folks have been putting in the chat. I see Rachel says that their book club focuses on multicultural books, and we get together and chat about books while eating dishes. Yeah, so speaking of books, I know that Timothea Pham, who's our colleague, she also has been working on a cookbook as a way to connect with her family. And Timothea, do you just want to quickly share what you've been doing with the cookbook and your mom?
Sure, thank you, Mina. So I am Vietnamese American. I was born in California, but throughout my life, food has been a really strong part of the love language in Vietnamese culture specifically. And I thought it would be a great way to not only strengthen the relationship with my mom, but also to kind of learn more about Vietnamese cuisine. There's a lot of different influence from France, from China, from other parts of Southeast Asia. And even an ingredient can tell a really large story. And it is just a way for me to also just understand, more of my culture and more of its political and historical context. So I'm really excited about that. I'll definitely share it with people.
Thanks, Timothea. And as we, go through the webinar, just feel free to share how you celebrate food, or if you have any, comfort foods that you turn to. So we are going to get started and dive in. So today we have Robson Lemos, who is chef and culinary entrepreneur at NIBBLE Kitchen, and Rachel Strutt, who is cultural director of the Somerville Arts Council. And they're going to share a collaboration that really celebrates different cultural offerings combined with cultural economic development in support of immigrant communities. So we're really excited that they're here to join us. And then we also have Lydia Gray, who is co-founder of the North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival. And before we opened up the Zoom room, we were having a great conversation about all the wonderful things you can do with garlic. So we're looking forward to that conversation too. So now I'm going to invite Robson and Rachel to share about NIBBLE.
Thank you. So I'm Rachel Strutt.
I am Robson Lemos, chef in NIBBLE.
And I'm going to try and share my screen here. Can everyone see that? Okay. So we are a cultural economic development initiative. We're based in Somerville, Massachusetts, and one of our many goals is to highlight that food is culture. And let's see. I need to figure out. It's not letting me go to next slide. Please hold. There we go. So in a lot of ways, NIBBLE started with the Massachusetts Cultural Council, because back in 2006, you guys offered a grant called the John and Abigail Adams Grant. And the goal was to stimulate cultural economic development through cultural programming. So we applied for Union Square, we got funding, and the program was called Arts Union. And NIBBLE grew out of Arts Union, and now NIBBLE is a standalone initiative that celebrates cultural interchange, and as you mentioned, Mina, also spurs cultural economic development. So it's multifaceted. And we're going to give a quick overview of the many different components in the NIBBLE program. But I'll say that we most recently opened a restaurant, and we never thought in 2006 we would be opening a restaurant. So we grew slowly and organically, and we built on our successes, and one thing kind of led to another. So we'll go into a little more detail as to what NIBBLE encompasses, but I just wanted to give a quick overview and invite Robson to talk about how he got involved with NIBBLE and the relationship between food and culture.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Brazil, and I arrived in the United States in 2004 as a student. And in 2008, I visited a friend in Somerville, right in the middle of summer. And in a Union Square, they have a festival. And my friend was playing in the stage, and he invited me for a performance. And after I sing in the Union Square, I fell in love with the city, and I felt very welcome in the city. Like a couple months later, I moved to the city, And I started to participate in different festivals as an artist. And of course, you know, like as an artist, it's always hard to pay bills. And since also the articles show me the culinary art, that was amazing for me because food is also about profit. So I still doing art, I still artistic creating, but also I also creating doing profit. So it was amazing idea to open up. I think it's the most like brilliant and intelligent idea that I ever seen in my life. You connect food and art together.
Thank you, Robson. So why is an arts council so obsessed with food? Because we are indeed obsessed with food. We believe that food fosters community and promotes multiculturalism. Everyone loves to eat, everyone has to eat, and it's a great common denominator. And I think food really triggers memories and stories, and it gets everyone talking. It brings people together. And I think that's especially important for a city like Somerville, which is incredibly diverse. To give just one statistic, in the home of Somerville high school students, in the homes of Somerville high school students, 51 different languages are spoken. So it's an incredibly diverse city. So expanding the definition of what culture is and making it more inclusive to include food includes everyone from our community. It also, the way we built NIBBLE to include entrepreneurship, it provides economic pathways. And I think that's important because it helps people stay in Somerville. As Somerville is getting developed and gentrifying, it's like, how do we preserve the diversity and the deliciousness that we especially find in Union Square? When we first got funding to launch NIBBLE from the MCC back in 2006, we started by assessing what are the existing assets in Union Square. And we walked around and it's like, oh, there are all these great markets and restaurants and there's so much diversity. So for us, it hasn't been about place making, it's about place preserving. And I think by celebrating and promoting food, you can help preserve that sense of place. And on the left, that's a lovely Nepali family that we met through one of our market tours, and she went on to teach a cooking class. And Robson, do you want to tell us what's happening in this other photo?
Yes. So we did like before we opened the restaurant, we did a lot of pop-ups in cooking class. The beautiful thing about that is like as an immigrant, the place that we get together is in restaurants and festivals. So I was doing already some like a festival, local festivals, and like going to the restaurant and experience my culture. So when I come to the NIBBLE program, we need to like describe the recipes, get the best ingredients, and show the people about our culture. So it was an amazing idea to not even celebrate our culture, but also teaching our culture.
So to give a very quick overview of how it got started and the different components in NIBBLE, we started by leading market tours in Union Square. There are about, well, there were more. Sadly, some of them have closed, but a couple of new ones have opened. There's a Brazilian market, an Argentinian Italian market, a Bengali market, an Indian market. So it really reflects the different populations of Union Square and Somerville. And so we would lead people through these markets and we would invite the market owners. In this photo to the upper right, that's Nora and Byron Cabrera of La Internacional, and Nora's from Guatemala, and she would share stories about making chuchitos and how in Guatemala you would, a woman on the bus would always be selling chuchitos. So you would learn stories of travel and culture, or you go into the Indian market and they'd be selling decorations for Diwali. So we invited the market owner, Dipti, of this Indian market to come to one of our festivals and do a display on Diwali. So it was through food that it led to some really exciting cultural programming. Then we learned that through some of our other programs that we had some great cooks in our midst who would be interested in teaching cooking classes. So we found that there was a local shared kitchen. We became a member and we started teaching cooking classes. And they've been on hiatus a little bit now, but we've taught about 60 classes from Peruvian to Indian to Venezuelan. And Robson has been one of our cooking teachers. Do you want to share what that experience was like for you?
Yes. As I said, like when we about to open up a class, we have to study about what we're going to teach. Not all about the ingredients, the flavor, but like what's the story behind the food. It is a lore story. So food is always a lore story to tell. So it's amazing. It's very rich to by this story. How can the plate comes together, and how can we eat together and celebrate together what the food is about.
Yeah, and these the classes, after we cooked together, we would sit down and eat together, and it was always a quite lovely experience. And then we learned that a number of our cooking class instructors in their respective countries, many of them had existing culinary careers, or others were interested in pursuing a culinary career here. So we decided, well, why don't we launch an entrepreneurship program, which granted is unusual for an arts council to do something like that. But we thought it was important. And again, bigger picture, it's a way to preserve culture and help support people and keep people here in Somerville. And we've had about, I think, 6 years of workshops. We basically teach a series of workshops introducing people to, what it entails to launch a culinary career. And Robson, you were in our first class.
Yes. Yes. So that's when you go more like a deep about food, like what kind of food are going to serve, in what occasion, how much, what's the portion, and what the food means for everybody. What's the protocol of a safe food? So it was like more deep about how can you professionally not only show our culture, but also prepare the best way for the people eat and celebrate. There was more like a specific, deep, and intellectual way to understand all this process.
And I think what differentiates our entrepreneurship program from maybe some of the other programs in the area, and there are many excellent programs, is that our participants were able to put theory into practice. So we went from the classroom to real life vending. So we would sell at a lot of festivals, or we would find spots in other businesses like Aeronaut Brewing Company, for example. And I think that provided great entrepreneurship training, but it also provides multicultural exchange because people are interacting and talking about food. And do you want to share your experiences vending, Robson?
Yes, that's a good point. Is about the exchange experience. I have experience to work, for example, with Stella. She's from Mexico, and she worked like at least 50 years in the kitchen. And for me, I'm like a beginning, like if compared with her, was amazing pleasure and honor to have her and the so other chefs, because food is about practicing and exchange experiences. So when we not only show what we have, but also we learn about the other people experience, is so like powerful for us.
And I should just give some shout outs to our other entrepreneurs. That is in the purple, that is Carolina Garcia. She's from Venezuela, and she and her business partner, also a Carolina, they have gone on to open not just one, but 2 restaurants, one in Somerville, and they just opened up another one in Everett. It's called Carolicious. So congrats to them. And then below is Miguel and Balbina, who are from Mexico. And that is a photo of them vending at Artisans Asylum when they did open studios. So basically we were happy nomads. Whoever would have us, we would sell our food. But there were a lot of challenges with being nomadic. We were always lugging our food from the kitchen, obviously following all serve safe regulation, but there's a lot of logistics that go along with that to where we were selling. So our dream was maybe we can open our own restaurant, our own culinary cultural space in Union Square. And that was a long-term goal of the Arts Union Initiative funded by the MCC, is how can we preserve culture in Union Square in the face of development, in the face of gentrification. So we dreamed big, and it took, a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort to make it happen. And if anyone's interested, they can contact us separately, and we can share some info on how we did that. But we opened up a small restaurant in Bow Market, which is this really cool kind of indie themed outdoor mall, for lack of better description, in the heart of Union Square. And this was our opening night. And Robson, do you want to share what that was like?
Yes. Before that, quickly, like before I was just an artist, like no, like a kind of to know where I should go. And now we have a kitchen with all the like a protocol that we learned, like the best way to serve, the best way to create. We have a beautiful environment full of instruments that we can create safely. So just amazing. That day, I don't even realize that's already in 2019, but on that day, all the chefs get together. We discuss about a nice menu, like a little sample from everyone. We also have a little performance that I organized with two Brazilian dancers, and we sing some Brazilian songs. Every single chef brought some little present for the mayor to say thank you for the opportunity to have the kitchen. So we celebrate this beautiful day that was like amazing. Everyone doing like a cooking in the same way, serving, explain the food, the history, the culture. Was such amazing night.
And that is Afruza, who's serving the plate of food. We'll learn a little bit more about her later. She's from Bangladesh. And just to read our mission statement, Nibble Kitchen offers a rotating, globally inspired menu from Bengali to Brazilian and everywhere in between. Our chefs are able to test restaurant concepts in a low-risk environment while promoting multiculturalism through food. With a focus on Somerville's rich immigrant communities, Nibble Kitchen supports social justice and aims to keep Union Square diverse and delicious, most importantly. And so our concept is it's a rotating menu. So this isn't the exact rotation right now. But Robson, do you want to share like what the rotation looks like right now?
Yeah, so the rotation right now, like Wednesday, we have a Bengali, with Afruza. I am on Thursday, and Afruza come back Friday and Saturday, and you have a Venezuelan on Sunday. We're gonna change in May, like every month we change something here and there. I come back on Wednesday in May. We're also gonna have a beautiful event on the Cinco de Mayo. Will be like Brazilian and Mexico together to celebrate the Mexican thing. So we always celebrate together, we exchange experience together. And another thing that I want to say is for me, as an immigrant and as a Brazilian, it's so good to like explain my food for American and for people like international people in general, because just like the way I can express myself, my art, my culture, my flavor is so powerful for me, and I feel so honored to be part of this program.
Robson, do you want to talk a little more specifically about your acarajé and how
that? Yes, amazing. When I see inside, if you see on your left, like Black Lives Matter, right? So my food comes from Bahia, which is like the black state in Brazil. Like Brazil has the biggest black population in America besides Africa. And I was raised in this culture. So just black eyed peas beans is made from the black community in Brazil. It's powerful. It's a like sacred food. They call fire cake. When I explain for my people, like for my clients, I say when you eat this food, it's like a fire inside of your mouth that make you happy, excited, and empowered.
And I would like to point out two other things looking at these photos. One is Robson, his artistry really shows in his food and his presentation. And I just think that's such a beautiful presentation of your acarajé on that banana leaf. And another thing that I think Robson is also a master at is, as it relates to our bigger picture mission of Nibble, is promoting and preserving diversity in Union Square. So when Robson is selling his acarajé and other Brazilian food at Nibble Kitchen, the Brazilians come out and you hear as much Portuguese as you do English, and that is just lovely, and it's something that we're very proud of, and it helps us fulfill our mission.
I want to say something about that quickly also, Rachel. Is like Brazilian people, they're afraid to go in American places because they don't know how to connect. So buy the food, people start to go to the Bow Market, to the Nibble Kitchen, so buy my food. And the other thing, there's so many Brazilian restaurants here, but they're the same thing. It's about like a beef and a steak. And I also make a difference in my own community that like acarajé is something that no even have in the Brazilian places. So I just get all my community to come to visit and connect with the American community and also present my food to the American community. So it's an amazing program.
And we're just wrapping up here, but as I mentioned, NIBBLE is always growing and we're always experimenting with new concepts. And our latest concept is a bit like a CSA, a farm share, only we're doing it more like a CSR, a restaurant share. Afruza on the left is very interested in catering and exploring what food items her clientele might like most. So we came up with this concept that for every Friday each month, you will get a complete meal, but you have to sign up for the whole month. So people pay $100 and every Friday they come to NIBBLE Kitchen and pick up a bag. On the right, you see a happy customer and they get to try different Bengali flavors each week. And what I love, her food is amazing. But what I love just as much is how there's culture through food. And every week we make a flyer that talks about Bengali food and culture. And it's mostly, you know, Afruza talking directly to her public. So the idea, it's almost like, you know, people are more into experiences these days, like Airbnb experiences. That's kind of what we're getting at. It's not just takeout food. It's like you are immersing yourself in Bengali culture. And then these are just some other examples of programming we do around the kitchen. This was a Cinco de Mayo event. When was that, Robson?
Yeah, the other side, the on the left is Cinco de Mayo. On the middle was singing for the grand opening, and the third one I don't remember right now. I think was the grand opening as well.
Yeah, and that's Sandra. And another thing I like about the program is that as much as possible, the voice is the voice of the entrepreneurs. It's like literally handing somebody the microphone so they can tell their own stories. And we, you know, as you brought up in the beginning, Robson, it's all about sharing stories, and we like that to come directly from the entrepreneurs themselves. And we've been lucky to get some good press too. And yeah, ideas on how to replicate. I would say start small and see what works and continue with that. Whatever doesn't work, drop it by the wayside. We did lots of that. Invite the public to be participants, curators, and partners. And we really have tried to create a NIBBLE community. And I think that's part of our success. And I also think it's not just about the Arts Council, the Somerville Arts Council, working with this group of entrepreneurs like Robson have helped us build this very program and this kitchen, and it's a real team effort. We have also learned we have to like outsource and delegate because we are an arts council. We don't know the specifics on you know, recipe development, for example, and then share credit success and build partnerships. And I also have to give a shout out to the city of Somerville and Mayor Curtatone, because without their support and, you know, and even financial support, we could not have built a restaurant. So we're very lucky in that regard. Anything else you want to add, Robson?
I think I just wanted to say this is a big pleasure to work in this project. And when you say to replicate, it's not only about like do inside the NIBBLE, but I think the example of NIBBLE is for like everybody. I'm been saying about this program, for example, people from Brazil in some city start to thinking about to open up like a culinary program in their own department of art and culture. So it's amazing example for all over the world. It's like amazing. I'm very honored to be part of this.
That can be our next goal, is global domination.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Robson and Rachel, for sharing. In terms of finding out the menu, is that something that's posted on nibblesomerville.com or through social media?
Yes, we have an Instagram account, NIBBLE Kitchen, and we also have a website, which is nibblesomerville.com, or if you do a Google search for NIBBLE Somerville, it will come up. But yes, and we also have a Facebook account for NIBBLE Kitchen.
And it does sound like, you have professional development integrated into your overall program. And we were wondering if you work with others to ensure like the cooks and chefs get Serve Safe certified. Is that part of the offerings that you provide?
Absolutely, and it's a great question. We could not be serving to the public if we weren't strictly following Serve Safe protocol. So that is part, before you can vend, that is a very key part of the education.
Actually, before the kitchen opened, that was something our focus, just be part of the food safety, and everyone was like food safety done before the kitchen is open.
Awesome.
And now that one more thing to add, now that we have the kitchen, I think we're able to even further our education when it comes to food and safety. And we've hired a kitchen manager, Ali Lopez, who just does such a great job running a tight ship and making sure that we have standard operating procedures and teaching everyone how to keep a clean, professional, safe kitchen. And to have done that during COVID, I feel like is quite an achievement.
And what was the time frame actually between when you started organizing the market tours till now?
The market tours started happening like 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, and then and I would say that it really built incrementally, and then the entrepreneurship program started about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Robson, is that when you joined Nibble Kitchen was when they started the entrepreneurship program?
Yes, yes. As I said, I was involved with the Arts Council for like many years, and like the first class for like the NIBBLE program I was doing was like a February, snowing everywhere, and Rachel Collins said, we have something special for cooking. I know you like it, so that was an amazing experience, and I keep going until then.
Yeah, I love how you've created not just an opportunity, but also to really, to really inform this program through the voices and talents and stories of the cooks and chefs and community members in Somerville. So that's wonderful to hear. We do have a question from Tina Games from Harwich. This might be more of a Mass Cultural Council question. Are there Mass Cultural Council grants available for these types of programs? So yes, so currently, in terms of thinking about program funding, the local cultural council grants are definitely a source. I would say that, the cultural districts also receive some monies. So that could be another potential funding resource. And in terms of others, like I think the Cultural Investment Portfolio Projects Grant might be another option if you're seeking different ways to fund these types of culinary initiatives. And others from the community team, feel free to chime in if you think of others. And let's see, I'm just checking to see if there are other questions. Oh, and I see something from Jennifer Leclerc. So when you live in an area where space is at a premium, obtaining space is often the biggest obstacle. When you say Mayor C was supportive, was the space donated? Curious how you got started in that regard.
It was not donated. We did a lot of fundraising. We got a grant from Mass Development, which was matched by the city. And we also, Nibble Kitchen turns a profit, and there's a profit sharing model, like, obviously our entrepreneurs get a percentage of the profit, but also when they do well, that means that they're helping pay for our overhead and our rent. So we came up with a business plan that helps us keep paying our rent. But I guess to answer more specifically the question on like, how do we pay for the space? It was a lot of fundraising and including support from the city. And another, they also not helped us create the space. They supported us hiring a full-time staff member, our kitchen manager. So, again, a huge shout out to the city who believed in the concept.
Great. Well, thank you again, Robson and Rachel.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Lydia Gray, co-founder of the North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival. And Lydia, I'll just get the website up so that we can.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to give a big thanks to Rachel and Robson. It's so inspiring to hear about your project and everything that you're doing year round. I know that Nibbles is going to be on my list of places to go. I haven't been to the city for a long time, but it's going to be on my list of places to go. So the North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival was started in 1999. 5 of us got together around a kitchen table. We had been talking about, well, what can we do? 2 of us are artists and 2 of us are farmers, and we're always traveling somewhere else, sometimes a long way away, to sell what we make or grow. And what can we do that's like right here? And we came up with the Garlic and Arts Festival. And that the slogan right from the beginning was the festival that stinks. And so you see here, it's still stinking after all these years. And if you go to About the Festival and under Mission, there, the North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival is a celebration of the artistic, agricultural, and cultural bounty of the region. The purpose of the festival is to unite North Quabbin people whose livelihoods are connected to the land and the arts, and to invite both local residents and those who do not live in the region to experience the richness of an area that is often overlooked. The festival emphasizes what is homegrown, handmade, and high quality, as well as what helps preserve and support the environment and the community. It is a multifaceted festival, and if you just click on booths and vendors, don't go anywhere, but just click on it so you can see the list. We have farmers, artists, farmers, and makers of farm products, food vendors, community organizations, healing arts practitioners, and we have exhibits and talks of renewable energy and local living, which covers a whole lot. And we've also had woodworking and forestry products. I want to give a shout out to Diane Dix. If it's the Diane Dix of Nolembeka Project, they've been a community organization that's been with us for many, many years, and I usually have the booth next door to them. So it's, and I'm also a big supporter of their cultural work. So back to that kitchen table, 5 of us sat down, we each put in $20, called everybody we knew who might be an artist, a musician, a maker of food, and invited them to come to the first festival. And in the beginning, few years, we did get local cultural council grants to help pay for performers. In the first year, all our performers performed for free. But after that, we really did want to, we wanted to be sure that they were paid. So just concentrating a little bit on the food. Food has always been a just an integral part of the festival. Like in our committee meetings, we meet year round, and we always have a potluck. We've really missed them this last year because we haven't done that. I should say that we have 22 person committee. We're all volunteers, and we've been all volunteers from the beginning. And in a little bit, I'll tell you one of our reasons for doing that. Then, if you can click under booths and vendors, click on food. There you go. And just scroll down. Okay, there you go, to the list of our food vendors in 2019. Just keep going down. You can see it's a combination of farms, restaurants, community organizations, and even some individual people providing food. And there's a wide variety. We have 2 Mexican, we have Thai, Indian, and it changes from year to year, but a lot of them come back to because people really enjoy having the seeing their friends and eating the delicious foods that they have made. So about 10 years into the festival, our little committee had been doing all the work to set up the festival, and all the work involved in setting up the festival kept growing, you know, as our attendance went from about 200 the first year to 10,000 in subsequent years. So we had to get a lot of volunteer effort in terms of the bigger infrastructure, in terms of parking and signage. And it just got to be too much for us festival organizers. So we spent some time thinking about what we could do. We didn't really want to start paying people. So we said, well, let's spread the work out so that nobody is feeling extra burdened. And to do this, we invited our exhibitors to help us out. And Mina, if you can post the exhibitor participation form, one of the attachments that I sent. Okay. So I'll just read part of it. The North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival is a community-oriented event in all ways. 6 years ago, organizers implemented an exhibitor participation model in the spirit of volunteerism that pervades all aspects of the festival. And because we could no longer do it all without a village, each exhibitor signs up for a task, giving 4 hours of time to help bring the festival to fruition. And we were really nervous when we started this. We didn't know how people were going to react. It was asking people to put in another 3 to 4 hours. But it's actually become a favorite part of the festival for quite a few of the exhibitors. And we've had people say, well, I can't come to the festival this year, but can I come and help with the exhibitor participation? And I think food is there are 2 reasons for the popularity of it. One is food, and the other is community. And so the model for the workday is that people will work for 3 to 4 hours, then there'll be a meal that other exhibitors have provided, a potluck meal, and we'll sit down, we'll eat that meal together and talk amongst each other so that all of us who are exhibiting at the festival hardly get any time to talk to other exhibitors. You know, we talk to the public who come to our booth, which is fantastic, but we don't get to talk with other artists or farmers or community organizations unless they happen to be right next door to us. And so in this working together and eating together, we kind of grow that community of local people who are all in it together. And we also have a couple of committee members who think of a question. We go around the circle and each person, you know, has a little time to answer the question. The question could be anything from what's your favorite kind of ice cream to tell us about the time you got arrested. And it's just it's just been really heartwarming to see how everybody has stepped up to help this festival happen. Let's see. Oh, here's on the other end of things, when you have festivals, there's always the question of what happens with all the trash. And I've been to festivals where there's just a ton of trash left on the grounds afterwards. So right from the very beginning, we implemented a policy of recycling and composting. And we have volunteers who sit with kind of like a bank of barrels and help people figure out where things go so that everything that's can be recycled is put into one barrel. Everything that can be returned for deposits put in another barrel. Anything that's compostable is put in another barrel. And then we have a barrel that says, really? You can't put it in any of the other ones? So that generally, after a festival with 10,000 attendees, we have 3 bags of trash total. And over 100 of compostable, recyclable materials. And the amount of trash on the field is practically none. That ties in with the big environmental concern that the whole festival community has. We also are operating not yet 100%, but close to 100% on solar generated power. I would encourage you to go to our website, garlicandarts.org, and see what we've got a lot of video material on there from our virtual festival last year, and there's a lot to explore. Okay, there's a couple other things I wanted to mention. I want to mention that it's just a lot of fun. It's really family oriented. We have these really simple games every year that people love to do. And one is like a garlic and egg toss, where you throw a bulb of garlic and then an egg, like that old egg toss thing. A garlic tug of war, garlic sack race. And every year you find people of all ages just jumping in and doing that. Children's activities. We have music performers, because we want to include as many arts as we can. So we have musicians, we have dancers. There's really something for everyone. And probably our newest big addition to the festival is the spoken word stage, where local poets are able to read their poetry. And in 2019, we had 38 local poets who were able to read. That's been a lot of fun. Okay. All right. And the reason why we really emphasize the volunteer aspect of the festival is because it has enabled us to give grants to local groups that do work in agriculture, the arts, community building, renewable energy. And so far, since we started our grant program in 2009, we've given somewhere in the area of $50,000 in grants. And we just feel really good about that. And one of our partners and an organization that we have given a few grants to and just kind of naturally work with is the Quabbin Harvest. It's a small food co-op in Orange. Orange is a really small town, about 8,000 people. And it's not an easy place to start a food co-op, but we've been successful at it. Their website is quabbinharvest.coop, and you can just see from scrolling through that there's a lot going on. They focus a lot on locally grown food. We have produce shares. We coordinate with the healthy incentive programs and make weekly deliveries of fresh organic fruits and vegetables to people. We have a wonderful chef under Prepared Foods, and Nalini is an inspiration to us all. She's a great chef and a great person, and she's comes from she comes from an Indian background, but she also knows very knowledgeable about other food traditions. And she was one of our we have chef demonstrations. It usually focuses on garlic, and that's where that cookbook came from that you might have seen at the very beginning, garlic recipes. Many of them come from our chef demonstrators over the years. So if you really like garlic and you want to get a sense of different ways you can use garlic, check out that cookbook. I think it's still available. Okay, thank you so much for listening. It's been really great to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Lydia. Did you say the cookbook was on the Garlic and Arts Festival webpage? Is that where people can find it?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure. I just know that we still have a bunch left, so that you can you can probably message our Facebook page. That would probably be the, and that way it would get directed to the person who actually has them in their care.
Great. Yes, I think we'll try messaging them, and we'll try to include the link to the cookbook.
Or you can share my email too. And
do you want to put your email address in the chat, Lydia?
Sure, I'll do that.
Mm-hmm. And I think you had earlier sent me somewhat like a trivia sheet on different aspects of the festival. And I see here, most cloves eaten by a raw garlic eating contest winner. And I've definitely eaten a clove or two, but it looks like the most eaten at your festival was 42. And that's just by one person in one sitting.
This is true. Personally, I don't recommend it. And I tell you, like, my booth has been close to the raw garlic eating contest area. And when people are done, you can be 10 feet away from them and you can smell the garlic.
How many artists do you accept each year?
Okay, so 2019, we had 42 artists.
Of various disciplines, right?
We had 42 artist exhibitors, so that's mostly crafts. But we had, let me see. Okay, we had, in addition to that, we have the musicians and dancers and other performers and the poets. So the total number of artists is close to 100.
And in terms of partnerships with other community-based organizations, do you ever partner with schools in the area? Or like libraries or parks and rec?
Not directly. We know if a school, we've had schools and other community organizations reach out to us and ask if they could, for instance, have a food booth or an informational booth.
Great. But a lot of families and children must come to the festival.
Yeah, they do. And we also have an ever expanding family activities area,
Mm-hmm.
which is,
Go ahead.
I just say it's also very popular. It feels like a safe place for kids.
And Tina, I see the question you put in here. Are you asking if Lydia would want to work with schools in Harwich? Just wanted, and you can unmute yourself if you want to just ask your question.
Yeah, maybe you can expand on that.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I am a school committee chair, so I'm always thinking about our kids. And I was just curious with something like this. We've got a wonderful cultural diversity program where I am at Monomoy Regional High School. And I just thought, gosh, a festival like this would just be perfect. And we have an international festival that we do annually. Our high school seniors put it on. And I just was brainstorming just in my head, just wondering about a partnership like that.
We don't really have the personnel to do a partnership like that. But we certainly are happy to act as a resource and kind of share with other organizations what we've learned about putting on a community-based festival over the years.
Thank you, Lydia.
And I know before, Lydia, you said that this festival really started off by the organizers just chipping in $20 each. Can you talk a little bit more about the funding sources that you have in terms of is it still based on contributions from the organizers? Are there fees that contribute to the overall funding structure? And you said you mentioned LCC money as well, right?
Right. Well, it's totally self-funded now, and our income comes from entrance fees. That's the biggest source of our income, is entrance fees, and we just raised our price to $8. And for years, it first started out $3 and then $5. Now it's $8. And then we also charge booth fees for vendors, and the average for that is $120. It started out as $30, and it's a little bit more for food vendors because people who sell food to eat at the festival do really well.
Mm-hmm.
They always sell out. And a little bit less for community organizations.
Thank you.
And then we have some things like T-shirts and bumper stickers, cookbooks, and that's that is a small source of income, not very big. So that's it. That's what has kept us going.
Well, for folks who are interested in hosting and organizing these types of festivals, definitely the local cultural council grants are a source, as well as the festival's grant monies. The most recent festival grant just passed. I think the deadline just passed, but there will be another round coming up, hopefully, depending on our budget for next year. And also the is it the Mass Humanities Council for Poetry that has another source?
Yeah. Yes. They'll normally have for literacy-based projects. They'll have I heard Lydia mention the poetry stage, and something like that might be eligible for funding from the humanities, mass humanities. So definitely, and we also have a projects grant at the Mass Cultural Council where that would definitely, I believe, qualify.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to also ask? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Luis, you said you had a question for Rachel as well. Do you want to go ahead and ask that?
Yeah, Rachel, and I didn't get to type it quick enough before, but when you're talking about in NIBBLE's the budget for supplies, if I had a restaurant and I'm selling my Puerto Rican fare, chances are I'm going to be buying a lot of the same stuff every week. My assumption is that with 4 or 5 different types of food, does that change your budget at all as far as like what to buy and does it amplify it, or how does that work?
It's a really great question, because you obviously have experience and know what you're talking about. And we found that we really like for entrepreneurs to take 2 back-to-back shifts so that they are buying food for 2 days, not 1, and thus making more of a profit. Because if you're only buying food for 1 day a week, you're not obviously turning as much as a profit. But Robson, I feel like I should let you answer that.
Yeah, so the experience that we have in the kitchen is good because we learn a lot, like about how to manage our food, our recipes, to see like how many clients you get in the daily base. So all this kind of like mathematical stuff we do, just like to keep going our business with no problems.
Great. Well, we are at time. Oh, I see another comment. Luisa, so you can buy bulk for some basic stuff.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you again, Robson, Rachel, and Lydia for joining us today, and for everyone here for being a part of the conversation and sharing your questions. I hope people feel nourished in some way as you go forward in your day, or at least inspired in thinking about dinner. And we will see you next time. We'll follow up with notes and a link to a recording of the session, along with the registration link for the next check-in, which will be on April 28th, I believe, which is a Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.